Oh, welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we have made it. We are on the final book of the Silver Spoon series by Nicole French. Now, if you have not listened to the first two reviews of the first two books in the series, those links are going to be available down below. Get caught up on those, and then come and join us as we close it out with book three, Last Comes Fate. We pick up with our boy Xavier. They've just concluded the funeral for Henry. It was a really nice affair. He found out a lot of things about his uncle. He actually loved to cook and he wanted to be a chef. And he got along really well with the locals. So it seems like he really was a pretty good dude. So after the funeral, Elsie and Jagger come up and they let him know, um, like, basically they're trying to figure out what's the plan next, right? So Elsie wants to know, what are you going to do about Francesca? So because she is his assistant, she saw that email. And so she wants to know. Well, Xavier is like, maybe it's just best for me. Maybe it's best for how it is, right? Because it's not good for them to be here. And I don't want to put them through any more stuff. So Elsie got kind of pissy and was like, you not finna fight for her? You just gonna lay down and give up? That's it? And she's like, that's not who you are. She's like, you need to go get her and the babies back. And Jagger goes, babies? And she says, yes, she's expecting. So again, she's read the email. So Jagger was like, so y'all couldn't wrap it up? Clearly they weren't not trying to have one, right? Xavier says she was barely taking the pill, and when she ran out of them, it was hard to get an appointment so she could get some more. He had a bunch of condoms, but he didn't want to use them. So clearly, I don't think they did. Again, they did not want it. So she is actually in Italy for Matthew's wedding with Nina, and Elsie's like, it's just a short trip, just a few hours. And so his feet decided before he even decided they were moving. So he runs into Georgina. I forgot to mention real quick before he ran into Georgina, Jagger's gonna look after the Parker group like he's been doing. And Elsie's gonna handle things at the Kendall estate. And so again, she tells him, go and get your family and then you can come back. So runs into Georgina. They have a little back and forth. He winds up yelling at her and told her, basically, I know all the dirty tricks you were doing. I know been going to the House of Lords trying to get me stripped of my title. Just all this stuff. And he also knew she was the one that basically gave Francesca the means to get away from there. And she tells him that she's going to find the proof come hell or high water. He kicked her out. He said, get off the premises, right? She, of course, was doing the whole, you can't talk to me, I'm a duchess and all this type of crap. And so he tells her by the time he gets back, she better be gone. Otherwise, she's going to deal with something she can't handle. So this is my thing with people. It's like, okay, if you're trying to find the proof, right, to discredit that he's supposed to be the heir, why do people always feel like they got to tell people what they're doing? They always tell it. It's the dumbest thing. You don't need to tell nobody. If you really want to move in secret, move in secret. So anyway, we switch to Frankie's POV. She's at Matthew and Nina's wedding. She's going through some conflicting emotions, being happy for her brother and feeling nausea from the pregnancy. She, of course, had thought that her and Xavier would get married, and now it's definitely feeling like that's never going to happen. Okay? Now, I'm going to have to bitch a little bit because I don't like her. See, this is where she upsets me. Matthew, aka Maddie, Matt, however you want to say it, he has been a very great brother to her. And I hate that she is so selfish that she cannot be in this moment just happy for Matthew because he deserves it. You know, first of all, let's be honest. You may have thought you were going to be with Xavier, but you didn't really fight to be there. Okay? And Xavier failed too. Okay? Don't get it twisted. I don't put it all on her. He failed as well. But Matthew fought to be with this damn woman. And that woman fought to be with Matthew. And for this to culminate into them having this ceremony celebrating their love, it's just like this, why couldn't it be me? I hate people like that. It irks me when people look at other people's lives and base their own happiness upon what someone else has. It just irks me because I think it's the dumbest thing. And she just pissed me off because I felt like you should be so happy for Matthew that all these years looking after his sisters, and because he was the only boy, and he was finally able to find someone that had his back, wanted to be with him, like went through the fire with him, didn't care because they were like, no, this is what they wanted. I just feel like she should have been a lot happier and a lot less mopey. And that's what pissed me off with her. Because as I always say, she's selfish. And that's one of the main reasons why I can't fucking stand her. Is because she's so selfish. Okay, that was my first little rant. Okay, so she gets sick, winds up going to throw up. Kate comes in. Kate winds up figuring out she's pregnant because she hadn't told anybody outside of our boy, Xavier. And Kate is kind of like, okay, what are you, like, she wants to really know what's bothering her because she's like, you're not by yourself. You have all of us. You know, she said, besides, it's not like before. He does have means, so he can help. So, like, what exactly is it, you know? Well, Joni and Marie come in. Joni's had surgery, so she's on crutches. Marie, of course, came from Paris doing her little type internship thing. And those two let her know that Sophia's father is out here asking for you. So Kate's like, can you handle this? You know? And she's like, yeah, I can. But she doesn't really know if that's true. So she goes out. She, of course, is like, what are you doing here? He, of course, is like, how can I not be here after what you told me? They have their little back and forth argument. But she's not saying that she saw him kiss somebody else. She never says it. She keeps saying, you broke my heart. You broke my heart. But she never says what he did. And he, of course, is like, you just left. I did everything I could for you. And you just left. And he felt like there was no appreciation for it. And he, of course, is trying to get her to come back. She says, no, I'm not going to uproot my life again for you. She's like, we have we have family and friends, her and Sophia, in New York. And she's like, I'm not leaving that again. And she's like, I have a job. He's like, you don't even like it. That's like the job you want, you know. But these are excuses we know that she's saying because she needs to remain comfortable. She doesn't want to deal with conflict, right? She's the middle kid. Her and Kate are like the middle kids. And they basically, well, she likes to fade into the background so she can stay comfortable. That's what it is. And going where she went, you know, at Kendall, it wasn't a comfortable situation. Now, he didn't do his part. He didn't tell people to back off. He didn't do what he should have done to protect her. He did throw her out there. I ain't gonna knock her on that. Like, he was dead ass wrong for that. But my thing is, your real reason for wanting to go back is you want to go somewhere where it's not as hard. You know? It's familiar there. I want to go back there. I'm not going to knock her for it because it was a hell of a time, you know, in Kendall. It was. Those people are ruthless. They really are. He had even made a comment about like him not being there for the first baby and like you're not going to keep me away from this one. He made that comment. And she, of course, was like, oh, not this again. But I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't get to cry about a broken heart after 2 months when you kept him away, what, 4 or 5 years? You don't get to do that, you know? But again, that's what irks me with her, the selfishness. Her pain matters, not his, right? Just hers. Well, anyway, they're going back and forth and they're getting louder, and she winds up saying that she's about the baby. And Matthew goes, he knocked you up again? First of all, I'm like, Matthew, your sister gets digged down. Stop saying he knocked her up again. No, they did it. They're adults. They got pregnant. That's what happened. He didn't force her to get pregnant. But Matthew always also, he's like he sees his sisters, they're always the victim. You know what I mean? Like that's the role he puts them in. And it's like, no, that was a joined effort. Matt and Xavier wind up getting into this whole rumble. It's a whole mess. Finally, Matthew's fighting him, and Matthew's like, "You cheated on my sister." Because remember, she told the family that part, but didn't tell them about the fact that she was pregnant. Okay. Anyway, they keep going back and forth. Xavier's like, "What are you talking about?" So she finally yells out the whole scene of what happened. And he tells her, if you would have stayed, you would have saw when she kissed me, it shot me, but I pushed her off. And I told her to get the hell out, and I've barely spoken to her since. And she was looking all confused. And it was like, yeah, you didn't wait to see what happened. You know, here's the thing. There's all these insecurities, right? And she never feels like she's enough. She never has. And so when she saw it, it was like, that was the confirmation. I knew I wasn't enough. I knew that's what he wanted. And she just left, you know? So at that point, Nona and Nina come up because they had been gone. And Nina came and Nona was like, take Matthew, get him out of those wet clothes or whatever. And then Nona tells her, no, let me go back. She told Leah to get the kids, keep the kids, take them. Frankie, you go and get him some dry clothes. We'll watch the baby Sophia tonight. And she's like, no, no, you don't have to do that. And Nona says, no, you need to take care of your family. And I'm like, shout out to Nona, because Nona was like, y'all doing too much. Y'all up here creating families, and then, you trying to run over here like you don't need to talk to this man, and you do. No, you gonna deal with this stuff. So shout out to Nona. I appreciate her. They get back to the villa where she's staying. She puts his clothes in the dryer, gives him a towel because other than that he'll be naked. And they have a talk. It all comes out. And this time I actually agree with what she said because she actually told him the issues. So she said something to him in regards to like her family. She's like, my family may be crazy, okay? But they're not going to let someone come in and hurt one of us. And she's like, that's what a person's family's supposed to do. They're supposed to go to war for you, go to bat for you every time. And that's what I needed from you. I needed you to go to bat for us. I needed you to stop saying, you know, you want to say it was just a bite when there were wolves coming after us, you know? And I was like, that was, she said it. That's what was happening. And he kept telling her, it's not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal. So I got down with that. But that's what you have to say it, you know? So I was glad she got that all out. He told her, you know what? You're right. He said, my mom wasn't a fighter. She just took things for what they were and just tried to make it work another way. But she didn't fight back. She never did. So I don't know to do that. He was like, I always felt like I just had to work hard at what I was doing to become the best, and that spoke for me, you know? And that's how he came up. So you have two different ways that they were raised, and you have to do with what works for you, right? And so if you look at him, he's successful. If we want to say like financially, but his life is like piss poor. Like he don't have major relationships, right? But putting your head down, working hard, and not allowing anything anybody says and not fighting back. But he did fight back, honestly, because when he was in school, he was getting fights all the time. If we want to be real. But that's how he dealt with things, and he came out on that end. Whereas she has a family that'll go to war for her, but she's completely dependent upon them too. So like there's this, you can have those things, but that's why in life there needs to be balance, right? Because one extreme of either one isn't necessarily a great thing. But for once I wasn't mad at her, and I've been mad at her for at least a book and a half. So I think I started getting mad at her halfway through book one. So they keep saying some stuff. His bottom's dry, his clothes dry, shall we say. And he does tell her, when is your next appointment, for the ultrasound? I want to be there. And at first she was going to tell him, oh, you don't have to come, or this and that. But she thought better, like, no, not to deny him, because you did deny him a whole last pregnancy. And that just wasn't fair. So if he wants to be a part of every visit, like, let him have that, because you did deny him. Just saying. So we fast forward about 6 weeks, and her younger sister Joni, she stays over, and she's been staying over the last couple days, and she's gonna start physical therapy soon. She's hoping to get back dancing within the next 6 weeks, and her and Joni kind of have it out. Joni basically was excited that with the news of the tabloids, because it was like people were talking about her family, right? So it's like made her feel famous because she wants to be famous. And they started talking about Marie in Paris, and Frankie said like maybe you should go over there with Marie and stuff like that. And she felt like Frankie was just being a judgmental bitch, and she Frankie is judgmental. She is. But Joni is also kind of a wild cannon. And she's the baby. So to me, she's probably been the most protected, the most shielded. So she doesn't have she has an idealistic view of the world, because she just keeps on the rose colored glasses, right? So it doesn't matter what they tell her, like for instance with the mom, she still wants to try and have a relationship with the bitch. Like the mom got up there doing interviews trashing your sister, and you still want to have a relationship with the bitch. You see what I'm saying? Like that's just kind of wild. We get to the day that she's supposed to meet up with Xavier to go to the appointment, and there's paparazzi outside of the school. She knows it's for her. She's pissed. But at the same time, like, girl, you should have known what was going to happen. Like, you were known worldwide. Like, what do you... you knew this crap was coming. Anyway, Adam Klein is there. He's back in the States. He's teaching. And he's telling her, he had asked the janitor to leave the back door open, the emergency exit, so they could sneak in around back. And she, of course, not wanting to go through the paparazzi, she does go with him. But she, of course, told him, we're not friends. Like, this doesn't change shit. So then he was telling her that he was trying to make her believe that he wasn't a bad dude, that, he just wanted his birthright or whatever. So he pulls her into a classroom so they can talk. And basically, it sounds okay. Xavier, he says, was mean to him. But I wonder if Xavier was really mean to him, because the way he's describing it, it's like this just sound like he was jealous of him, you know? So Georgina and his mom are like twins, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And they come from the other Rupert's. Who do they come from? They come through another line. So, like, the grandfather of Rupert and their, Georgina's grand. So they two intertwined, but I know that's how royal families do, you know, to keep the line a certain way. Still creepy. They come out of that side that was disowned, right? So it makes sense why Georgina was why she married old boy, because hell, she wanted to be back in line. She felt like that was her rightful place. It makes sense now. I get that. But anyway, he was like, it was always pressed into him about this stuff. So he was just trying, he feels like he has a legitimate claim to the dukemanship, and he just was just trying to get what he felt was rightfully his. She explains to him, listen, Xavier didn't have no peachy time either. You know, he went through it. And oh boy, Adam was like, he got everything. He wanted to be on the team. On the polo team. He got on the team. Any girl he wanted, he gets it. I finally meet the one of my dreams. He snatches her away too. She's like, that's not realistic. I was never yours. And again, it just sounds like he was just jealous because he saw things come in a certain way to him, to Xavier. It seemed easier, and it just seemed like things he had to do, he had to work harder because he was an American or part American or whatever, and it just seemed to, he felt he had to work harder and he shouldn't have had to. That's what it really feels like, just jealousy. Because if you think about it, if you've been told all your life you're the rightful person that should have been there, and then when you go to school with this person, they get everything, that of course is going to build up a slew of animosity. So that does, that makes sense. But he already knew that he had figured out that the baby, like when he met her, he kind of knew that that was his kid, because he was like, she looked just like him. Because she at first was like, how did you even know that was her father? Because I didn't tell anybody. And he was like, yeah, she looks just like him. I figured as much. Then he says, well, I kind of, the way she was piecing it together, it sounds like he's obsessed with Xavier and he was following him. Which meant he must have watched him from the beginning all those years ago, too. Which, again, creepy. Just saying, just creepy. So, anyway, she was done with the conversation, but classes were about to start, and he was all like, we're not done with this conversation. I'm like, oh, he's a psychopath. He gotta be. He has got to be. Because, again, like I said, described earlier, anybody, time you got somebody and they watching, him is specifically, him watching this guy so bad, like so much to the point, all he craves, it seems like, is whatever this guy has. Like, no. That's insane. She gets off at the end of the day and she goes to the bodega to get herself something because she's thinking about the fact she has a couple hours to herself. She's going to enjoy it. And also the fact that her and Xavier are going to have a conversation about the funds that he's going to give to her for the child. And she gets to the house and Xavier's already there, but he's talking to her fucking mammy. So this is what happens. When she comes up, she yells, "What are you doing here?" Xavier's like, "I got here early, my flight came in." And she's like, "I'm not talking about you. You." And her mom, Guadalupe, was like, "Well, I just wanted to come and apologize." And Xavier's like, "Yeah, she's been apologizing to me for like the past half hour or whatever." He's like, "I think she's really sorry, blah, blah, blah." And so he's like, "You know how he's like, the press over there, they'll twist things, X, Y, and Z." So then old girl says, "Well, what about what she did this morning?" And he's like, "What?" So she pulls up the article. This bitch was bad mouthing him just this morning. And he was like, "What?" Now, this woman has this new Chanel bag. She looked like she done got some money, right? And now he's pissed because he was ready to forgive that woman for what she had done and then turn around and this heifer doing the same shit in America. Not only did she do that, she tried to actually justify her fuckery. She's like, "Well, what was I supposed to do? You all won't give me any money. Most of the women that came out with me, they've already relapsed, and I needed some help. So they were willing to give me some money." And she says, "And if we do a video interview with you and the Duke, they'll give me $500,000. She's like, "We could split it, but we really don't have to because I mean, he already has a lot of money." And the glee that she saw in her mother at the idea of having that kind of money, she decided that's it. She done with this bitch. Like, nope. She's like, "I'm gonna file a restraining order, like Matthew wanted to do before." She's like, "I'm done. I don't want anything to do with you." And she's like upset because even the older sister Leah, remember Leah was starting to come around a little bit, but after the article came out over the summer, Leah was like, she's done because she realized she's the same person. She is not changed. She's the same. So Xavier's like, "You don't have to worry about it. I'm going to have my lawyers handle it now. You'll have it within the next few days." And he told her, "You better abide by it." He's like, "This is my family. She is mine. Her and Sophia, you can't come around here again." He said, "If you do, I will tie you up in so much litigation." He just went bonkers. And this is what she wanted from his ass in England, you know? But he didn't understand it. But look, once she told him, again, you gotta fully tell him. Once she told him, at first sight, look at what he did. Okay, we putting feet down. We finna do something. But the real test we know is gonna be how you handle stuff in England, because that's where she was having the problems. But I just like that he stepped up. I just really appreciate it. So the mom leaves. They go inside. She cries and cries, and they still got to get ready now, and they've got to go downtown for the ultrasound appointment. They get to the OBGYN's office. Now, he wanted her to go with this, like, OBGYN that was featured in, like, a magazine and shit. She's like, "No, my doctor saw me through everything with Sophia. No, I want the same doctor." He couldn't complain at that. So then the she thought a tech was going to come in, but the doctor Kyler herself comes in. So apparently the tech normally does this stuff, but he had Xavier being Xavier, he had made some donation. He paid whatever the fee was for the doctor for her to come in. She seemed a little agitated at first, but when she said thank you for the donation to the charity, she couldn't really be freaked out. She couldn't be too mad. Well, anyway, they get a little bit of a freak out because the doctor's like, she hears a murmur with the heartbeat. He wants to know if it's a boy or a girl. She felt some type of way. She wondered if it was the whole air thing, right? And that made her feel. But I'm just kind of like, why do you feel some type of way? She felt some type of way with Sophia because Sophia could never be considered because she's considered illegitimate, right? Because they're not married. Now, if this one, let's say they were to get married, this will be a legitimate heir. Now you feel some type of way that he will want a legitimate. Like, I can't with you. I can't. Like, stop. She's annoying. Anyway, the doctor wants to do an echocardiogram when it comes to the murmur. She said it might not be anything. She said, but we're going to set it up just to be on the safe side. And they're like, okay, we'll just figure it out. And when they left the doctor's office, and she had asked about the baby, about it, do you want it to be a boy or a girl? And he said, honestly, I don't care. He's like, I just want a healthy baby. That's all I care about. And of course, that answer made her happy. As they're walking, he takes her to this area, beautiful place, where there's these really beautiful brownstones. They apparently cost like 20 million plus. So these are where like great authors lived. And she, of course, is like amazed by this. And he was just kind of like, what do you think about if our family were to stay here? And he's like, you could go back to school if you want. He's like, you could do whatever you wanted to do. And he had brought her some journals from the estate because he saw that she was, loving reading them and things like that. So he brought her some more. And she was just kind of like, I don't think that's going to work. She's like, because we're not together. And they had this whole emotional moment, wind up kissing, and he tells her how much he loves her, how much he'll fight for her. And she had the whole fear of going through, motherhood again. She's like, he's telling her, this time you're not going to be alone. I'm going to be there. And it's like, that's still not enough. She's like, I don't know. I feel like, here's my thing. She had a very traumatic pregnancy last time. Now, I will give her that. That sounded very traumatic, okay? He's telling you he's going to be here, and you're going, I can't trust that. Based off of the past 2 months, she feels like because you didn't have our backs over there, I can't trust that you're really going to have our backs. And so I can't commit to a future with you. Like, I don't know. We're not going to get back together. We're not doing it, And so he kind of walked away. She's running behind him. Why are you walking away? Well, what is he supposed to do? If that's your answer, you leave it alone. He told her, someone once told me I was a bully. I don't want to be like that. So it's just kind of like you tell him he's doing something, he tries to correct the behavior, and then he's still punished for it. It's crazy. Especially if he doesn't realize that's what he's doing. And you could tell based on his response when she told him that over the summer, he didn't realize that he was being a bully. He really didn't. I think he genuinely felt like because he had been bullied his whole life, there's no way he could be one. Whatever he did was not considered bullying until he heard it from her. You know? So, again. So then she was like, I'll just take the train back. He was like, stop being dumb. Just get in the car. I'm not going to have you take a train when I have a damn car here, And she gets in the car, and I don't know. I think for me, my issue with her is she doesn't want to recognize the fact that he's a rich man. Like, just because your reason for loving him doesn't have anything to do with his money, we get that. That doesn't change the fact that he has money. She still wants to live like he doesn't have money. It's like, that's not realistic. You have a child from a man with money, which means there is help for you. There is assistance you will now have that you didn't have before. You had your siblings, that's great, right? But even she described them helping that it wasn't the same, that they were more concerned about her than the kid. So again, she just, some people I do see where she sometimes act like she just cannot be satisfied, and that's when I get really, she irks the shit out of me. He didn't say anything else to her. He just asked if he could take Sophia to the park when they got back. And so he took the baby to the park, and then she was in there with her sisters, and they're eating fried calamari. And we find out, she told them the whole story about what happened. And at first, Joni was like, he sounds like a fuck boy. And Kate say, no, it sounds like he's working through stuff. He's trying to fix issues. And she kind of went on about how, when he would get upset and he would ravish you, Kate was like, you like that shit, you know? And she goes, well, I didn't like the yelling. I like the passion. And so when he started to close himself off from me, that's when things started to go bad. And Kate was like, okay, well, it looks like he's trying to change it. Maybe you need to go to London and see what it's like. And she's like, I'm not doing that. We found out Marie, their other sister, she's in love with this guy named Daniel Lyons, who, is this rich dude. She's worked at that house for so many years. She's in the kitchen assistants. I thought she was working at like a resort country club type thing, but no, child, it's just some rich folks that she works for. And she was the kitchen assistant. So anyway, apparently this guy's also got a brother, and they're telling Joni, maybe you just need to go over there. They're trying to tell her to go visit, because she apparently needs a break from PT because it's not going too well. Well, it was going well, but she tried to do something too big too fast and damn near hurt herself again. So it is what it is. So Kate was like, we can probably get some money together to get you a plane ticket so you can visit. And I'm sitting there going, this bitch got 200,000 in her fucking bank account. She can pay for it since it was her idea. Shit. Why the rest of y'all gotta scrounge up money and she send no money? Like, come on. That's the bullshit. And the only reason why I say she could pay for it is because it was her idea. Pete from downstairs knocks on the door, and we find out he's going to be moving to Patterson, New Jersey, because, honey, he got him a woman. And so he's going to be moving out. And she tells him he can move out as soon as he wants. She's not going to penalize him or anything like that. She'll get with Matthew about, his deposit and things like that. So then she starts thinking, oh, shoot, I got to get another tenant, because she was going to use the money from Pete to pay towards the house as well, to like pay the house off faster. And again, I'm sitting there going, you don't need a fucking tenant. She tries to make it seem like she can only do this small amount of thing. That is not your situation, honey. You have a man who has money. I'm not saying, listen, and you can feel, I'm not saying you need to rob him. I'm not saying you need 200,000, you need 100,000 or 50,000 a month. I'm not saying that. But he is able to give you enough that you all can afford a nice place to stay, and there's not as much of a burden on you. Right? And she keeps acting like that's not her life. That's not her life. And it's annoying. It's so freaking annoying. And Xavier is more than willing to pay money. He's like, listen, I have a responsibility to her. I don't have a problem paying. We'll work out an amount that'll work for you. You know what I mean? Like, he's not trying to be cheap with her or anything. He's willing to give her anything. Hell, he told her she could have moved into the the brownstone. He's like, he just wants her to be happy. But she's like, no, it's too much. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. Frankie goes to work and she gets sacked. The principal said, with the paparazzi, it's just too much. They've started harassing the kids. One of them, like, yanked the kid up against the damn fence, bruising their arm, trying to get information on her and her kid. And here's the thing. I understand the school's response. I get that. I wouldn't blame them. She's a liability. She gotta go. And she, of course, is like, it's not my fault. But it's like, yeah, but the principal's like, but you said this was going to cease, and your mom did another piece, and it's just gotten worse. So she goes and, packs up her stuff. And normally a person will have a lot of stuff. She didn't even have enough to fit into a box. So again, because she didn't like the job, it's not what she wanted to do. It was just a means to an end. They are going to give her pay to the end of the year because that's what her contract was for. Um, so that's good, you know. So then Adam finds her and, of course, catches up with her outside, and he's acting all, what did he say? He made a comment to her about, he's making you lose everything. This is his fault. And she's like, this is not his fault. And it's like, hell, she's like, her mother's the one that's doing interviews, you know? You can't just put everything on him. And he was like, remember what I said, and all this type of crap. And he was just a lot. So she gets from him, and she gets to, where did she do? She was meeting Xavier in front of the kids. What's her name? Sophia's preschool or daycare, whatever it is. And we find out that Xavier's gonna build a second restaurant in New York, which makes her happy because that means he's gonna be here, closer to the kids. And at the same time, it's kind of like, well, how long is that gonna be for? Because it can't be forever. And I'm just like, I just can't stand her. But anyway, I don't know. It's just the idiocy with her. I don't know if I've ever been so frustrated with the fucking character. I can't remember. If you guys remember, you guys drop down in the comments and let me know. But just somebody that just flip flops so fucking much, finding the most ridiculous reasons behind stuff. It's just, she just irks me. I mean, it just doesn't stop. She's panicking about, how am I going to pay for anything? Like, she ain't got no fucking money. And the good thing about it is there's severance. So it'll be, you're not working, but you're still getting paid. That's good. You know, on top of it, there's $200,000 that I know is still sitting in her bank account. And I know she ain't fucking touched it. She hasn't. So they pick the kid up. They go home. Well, yeah. They go to the house, to her house. And there's a letter. Doesn't have whose it's from. It's not address. It just says to her. Doesn't have a return address. And basically, it says, if he's not who you think he is, get rid of him. If you don't, I'm gonna get rid of you. He takes the letter and he's like, call the cops right now. You've got a stalker. He said, go ahead and make up the landing because I'm staying here tonight. I'm not leaving you. So they call over Derek, and Xavier wanted to call the police chief, child, but Derek comes over, and pretty much not too much he can do. They're gonna take it to see if they can get fingerprints off of it. They wind up getting into an argument because yes, by now everyone knew. Leah was saying, she's blaming it all on him. She's like, she's got these, this comes from you. She's like, but you got to figure out what you're going to do too. She starts bringing up the fact that she doesn't have a job anymore and all this type of stuff. And at this point, I'm just like, girl, this is not the time for her to have to deal with this. She got a fucking stalker. She got to deal with that shit. Like, come on. You got to chill out with this. Like, let her deal with what the hell she got going on right now. Ugh. That, again, it's a double-edged sword with that family. They can be great, and then they can be overbearing assholes. It's both. She winds up going downstairs to the basement to get away from everybody. And it was peaceful, and she thought, you know what, this might actually work. When she needs a break from the kids and stuff, she can come down to the basement. Well, Xavier comes down 10 minutes later, and she's like, I told you I needed a minute. He said I gave you 10. I think that's generous. They go back and forth. Truth comes out. The truth is she keeps bringing up the summer because it gave her it gave validity to what she's already always thought about herself, which she wasn't worthy. She wasn't enough. That's why, her parents left. That's why her dad was a drunk and her mom too. That's why Matthew moved away. Like, she makes everything about her. Matthew moved away because Matthew found a fucking woman that he fell in love with and he wanted to start a family with. And you need to look at what Matthew is doing as a positive thing, because he didn't let the fact that he has a bunch of sisters stop him from being with the woman who he loves and wants to build a life with. You know? That's what really happened. But again, she makes shit about her. Ugh. So she, how does he tries to tell her that she is worthy. He tries to tell her these things, but she can't hear it. You know? He offers her again the townhouse, not the brownstone. He's like, you can live there. It'll be safer, and you don't have to stay with me. I told you that. She's still doing it. No, no, no. This is our home. Da, 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 da. Okay. Well, it's like, sweetie, you got a psychopath that know where you stay. But okay. So Kate comes down there and she's like, she cuts through the bullshit. She's like, let him stay down here. You know? Because he's like, he's not leaving. They're his family. I'm not leaving them. So she makes this comment about, you left us this summer, still bringing that shit up. But again, my logic with that, 2 months, and think about 2 months, but he had a bunch of shit on him too now. We'll give him that. And then your ass, 4 or 5 years, you didn't tell him about a kid. Get the fuck out of here. I can't. So he's like, I'm not going to leave you here to deal with this shit. I am here. And she's like, well, what about your businesses? He's like, Elsie and Jagger got it. It's fine. So then she tells him, okay, but there's no more kissing. Like, we can't do that anymore. And he said, fine. I won't kiss you until you ask me for it. We switch to Xavier's POV. He is doing a therapy session. His therapist is really helping him. She's got him to see that it's like, it's not her job, speaking in regards to our girl Francesca. I'll still say our girl, but I still don't like her fully. She only won me back at like 5 or 10% with that earlier statement today. But anyway, she's explaining to him, like, it's not Francesca's job to placate your feelings. Like, you've made her everything in your world, okay? But that's not her job. You did that. And you need to understand and respect her stance when it comes to putting up the boundaries, and you've got to try and accept it. And he starts describing how he feels about her, and she's just kind of like, is that lust or love? And he said, honestly, it could be a little bit of both. He's like, I know I love her. I know she loves me. But yet, that's not enough for her to be in a relationship with you. She's like, so you got to respect where she is. And, you can't force her to be on the same page and want what you want. And that just kind of, the way she explained it to him made sense to him. And he's been doing his breathing exercises to stop himself from getting all enraged all the time. So those crazy outbursts, they haven't been happening. He's learning to ask permission for things. Like, for instance, she said something that he didn't understand, and he goes, explain. And she just looks at him. He says, I'm sorry, could you please explain that? And she's like, you see? She's like, you're recognizing the behavior and you're trying to fix it, So she had a lot of good stuff for him and it seems to be helping him. So he's getting ready to go back to New York. Elsie and Jagger at the airport with him. Jagger's now, I want to say CFO or something like that. And because he's been doing the work. And so he promoted him. Again, his problem has always been control, right? And so he needed another focus, is what I think it is. The problem is he's a control freak. So now the other focus becomes our girl Francesca and the kid Sophia, and that's too intense because he needs too much control. So, but at least again, he has a therapist. That's the first step, trying to get help for the situation. Reckon, okay, I got an issue, and then really seeking out help. And if he wasn't ready for the help, it wouldn't work. But I think he genuinely wants the help. He wants to be better for his family. And I think that's admirable. So they of course are telling him about there's speculation brewing about the coup that's coming, and they're like, you could stay and fight it, and that'll probably help going your way. And he said, honestly, if we put it between Parliament and my girls are going to win. It's not a question. He wants to be with his family, could care less about the other stuff. And he's like, I'm going to my girls. We fast forward, she's about 13 weeks, and she has actually been enjoying being a lady of leisure these past couple of weeks. She's been reading journals because every time he comes back, he brings her journals. And so she is now at 1984, which is about, what, a year or two before Xavier's born. And she's having these raging hormones as well. The nausea has subsided, but it's been replaced with the horniness. So in the journals, it sounds as if both Rupert and Henry both had a thing for Masumi, but he puts her name, he doesn't put her name, he puts just the letter M. And he says Japanese cook. Well, we know who else could that freaking be, you know? So she goes down to tell Xavier about it. She hears him on the phone. It's a woman, English accent. And he hears him saying, it's getting harder, X, Y, and Z doing this. She, of course, starts to feel jealous, even though she's like, I know I shouldn't feel that way because I'm the one that's saying I don't want to be in a relationship with him. She backs up and winds up knocking over a coat hanger. He comes out. He's like, what the fuck? And she's like, I wasn't eavesdropping. Well, clearly, bitch, if that's the first thing you say, your ass was eavesdropping. They go upstairs, and she, of course, goes, who was that you were on the phone with? Was it Imogene? He told her, no, that was not Imogene. He says, I'm in therapy. She's like, oh. She's like, when did that start? She's like, did that start after is that, like, did he start it to try and get her back, basically? He said, no, I started it not too long after you left and right before Henry died. She hadn't expected that answer. And he told her, when you call me a bully, I just never wanted to be known as that. I don't want my family to be afraid of me. I don't want other people to hurt because I hurt. Like, she wasn't expecting that answer, right? So he did ask her, if she wanted to go back to school. He's like, money's no object. Just let him know what she wants to do. And she goes, but why do you want to help me? Is it because of me or is it because of the kids? And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't with her. He told her, I want my kids to know that they can do whatever they want to do, seeing it through both of their parents. She hadn't expected that answer. She thought he was going to say, because I love you and I want to do anything to get you back. But that's not it. I believe he's genuinely trying to become better. I think his core was good, but life experiences changed his perspective on things, dealing with so much loss. It affected shit, you know? And I'm just, listen, he getting better. I don't know if she deserve him. Okay? That's how I'm starting to feel. Like, you know what, bitch? You don't deserve him. Okay, so Frankie, aka Francesca, aka Chess, she's doing her routine. It's like clockwork. She puts the baby to bed, and she watches her, well, her or him, you know, put the baby to bed. She watches her Downton Abbey, and then she gets horny as shit around 10. Okay? So the vibrator only does so much. She tries to make herself come without thinking about him, but then eventually winds up thinking about him and gives into it. And then she winds up knocking over a flower plant pot, and she's frustrated. Okay? And so then he comes up from the basement because he's thinking something's happened. And then he starts thinking, oh my God, you've got someone up here. So he starts yelling, like, well, not yelling because they ain't trying to wake the baby up, but he's like, really? Make him come out, make him show his face. Like, she's like, no one's here. So eventually she admits that she was trying to, make herself come. And he goes, okay, maybe I can help you with that. So at first she's like, no, we shouldn't do it. You do realize it's not going to change anything. And he says, I know that. Just let me help you. So eventually, what he winds up doing, let her lay back on him. He's grabbing her tits. He winds up fingering her. She's like, talk to me. Tell me a story. So then he tells a story of how they met. He's describing it. How they were dancing on each other. How he took her in the closet, ate her pussy. Pretty much was addicted at that point. She came. She got sleepy right after. He took her to bed, tucked her in. She asked him if he wanted to stay and sleep. He said, I'll see you in the morning. And he left. And he did not try and kiss her, and that made her feel like, oh shoot. But again, that's why you don't play with people. Like, don't bullshit and say we're not going to be together. I don't see it happening. Da 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 da. Then when they start reacting to you and treating you that way, now all of a sudden you want to freak out. Next few weeks, that's what they do. Basically, at night, he gets her off. One night, she wound up jacking him off as well. They don't kiss. She's boiling over now because now what they're doing is not enough. Now she wants dick, okay? This other stuff is just not enough anymore. However, she's worried. She's done put up these boundaries, and she done told him they're not getting back together. And now he's not fighting her on this, you know, and it's bothering her. But I feel like she deserves it. But anyway, they're getting ready to go to the appointment for the echocardiogram. Derek stops by. He tells him they caught a 15-year-old kid delivering a second letter. And so the letter itself is in evidence, but he was able to take down what it said, and basically it was the same crap of, get him out of your house, he shouldn't be there, I'm gonna do something to you, that type of crap. So she doesn't want to press any charges against the 15-year-old kid. She thinks it's a prank or something. But Xavier's like not being possessive and crazy when she goes to talk to Derek. But he's like, we'll get a private investigator on it. And that was that. It was no outburst, no bullshit from him. And so she asks him, if he, Derek asks her when they're outside. He's like, are you okay? Is everything all right? And she's like, yeah, everything's, good. And he's like, okay, because I thought you all weren't together, but now he's staying here. And Matt had told him to, like, check on her every now, once a week or something. And Nina is pregnant as well. She's like 1 month further along than Frankie. And so he was just trying to make sure everything was okay, doing what his friend had asked him to do. And she goes back inside, but there is no craziness coming from our boy. That was that. I'm proud of him. They get to the doctor's office. The woman comes in with the tech. I think this doctor for this test is Dr. O'Brien. She sees something, goes to confirm it. Basically, you have holes in your heart. As time goes on, they get filled in. But the hole in this kid's heart is a little too big. They're worried about it. They'll keep an eye on it. They'll keep it monitored. She starts to have a freak out, but he's able to calm her down, lets her know he's here, they're going to be okay. He really was a solid rock for her. We also find out the sex of the baby. So on the way home, he's super quiet. She's thinking he's worried about the situation with the heart, but he's worried about the fact that it's a boy. And she's like, why is that a problem? He's like, they're going to be after him. She's thinking again, her insecurity. She's not good enough. She's not worthy. She's like, so you're embarrassed of me and your kids? And he's like, what the? He's like, no. He's like, it has nothing to do with that. He says, I don't want my children to have to deal with this shit that I'm going through right now with this title. I just don't want them to have to deal with it. I want them to be able to make their own decisions. And it was like, again, she does that flip flop between wanting them to have the title and not. Like, well, I want them to have the option, but I don't want them to be forced into it. And he's saying, I don't want them forced into it either. This shit is heavy. It's not easy. And that's another thing she doesn't realize either. That's a lot of responsibility that's put on him. She doesn't think about shit. She just thinks about her. Xavier winds up going to the basement to chill out, get himself together. And he comes back up, just starts cooking. She goes to pick the baby up. He had her taste some stuff, blah, blah, blah. Then the word bastard comes out by him. And he was saying something to the baby. It came out. And she, of course, wants to know what that means. And he explained, well, when you're not married, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, you're not married to mommy, so I guess I'm a bastard. But her teacher had said about turning negative things into positive. So she was like, we're going to be the best bastards, daddy. Like, she seems like such a sweet kid. There's a knock on the door. She goes, and it's Adam. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing here? So he tells her that she goes outside to talk to him. He says that someone called him asking him to deliver a letter. They were offering a lot of money, and he had been trying to call her, but she had blocked him. And it kept bothering him, so he figured he needed to tell her. So she gave him the number to Derek and the investigator to give them the information as well. And he winds up telling her that the night she met Xavier, he was there at the bar too, and he was on his way to come and talk to her, and Xavier swooped in and got her. So it was like he stole something else from him. And again, she tells him, I told you before, you can't steal something that's not yours. Now that's a line, I'm like, mic drop. I like it. So then she wanted to know, how did you know, wait a minute, what did she ask him? He kept saying that he wasn't stalking. That's what he was trying to let her know. That I wasn't stalking you. It was nothing like that. X, Y, and Z. And he told her that he was still he's like, are you two back together? She's like, it's complicated. And she wished him luck. And he had made a comment about being in love with her. And Xavier says, you're in what? And he didn't do any crazy shit. He was able to contain himself. And I was like, if he can contain himself around Adam, honey, you already know he's straight. Because that's the villain for him. They have dinner with the baby. He goes and plays with her. And then afterwards, they put the baby to bed. And Xavier goes outside to have a drink. She comes out, they talk, and she, of course, expressed to him how shocked she was that he didn't explode with Adam. And he told her, I trust you. I know we're not together, but I trust that whoever you decide to be with, they've got to be a good person for you to want them because you're a good person. And if that's what you need, that's what it is. She did not expect that answer. And he says, is that, no, wait a minute, who said it? She said to him, is that what you want? Like, you want me to be with somebody? He said, no. It's not what I want, but I can't really stop it. You know what I'm saying? I want you to be happy. That's it. I want for you and our children to be happy. That's it. So she finally admits that she wants him as well. He tells her, I need a minute. He left and went downstairs, and he's punching the punching bag. She is like, what the hell? He didn't respond to her. So she, of course, respect her space, but she ain't got to respect his. So she goes down to the basement, and he's like, I asked you for a moment. She's like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, why are you acting like this? I'm telling you, I want you. Like, why did you do all this? Did you do this just to make me feel like you wanted me to throw me away? She's like, I know I'm not good enough. She's like, and then again, all of these insecurities come out. And he's like, whoever told you that you were something to throw away or you were nobody? She says, well, nobody told me that. It's shit that she internalized. Her family members have big personalities. And she is just kind of pushed herself to the back in her books. And that's the role she put herself in. Everyone else is loud, she fades out. But unfortunately, that made her feel like she was nothing. And so he tells her, you are everything. He just tells her, you know, never, you shouldn't think that way of yourself. You know, he's like, I love you. He's like, but you're an amazing person. Like, he really tries to drive into her what he really truly feels for her, you know? And she, of course, is like, oh my gosh, it did help her to hear it. And then he winds up asking her to marry him. And she does, oh my gosh, you know, and she agrees. And they have a wonderful night. And I'm okay. I'm okay with her right now. They have a wonderful night. Next morning they wake up and he wants to tell Sophia, and she's like, you don't want to keep it a secret. She's like, no. He's like, no, I want the world to know. And then she's like, okay, but what are we going to do about where we live? And he said, I was thinking New York. And she goes, are you sure? And he says, yeah, I think it's best. He says, you know, you don't want to live in Kendall. I don't want to live there either. She tells him, I could do London or Cambridge, like somewhere outside of there. And he said, honestly, New York is home. You have family here. I want both of our children to have that experience, you know? And I was proud of her in that moment because she was about compromising, you know? Everything can't be about making her happy and that's it, you know? So I'm like, okay, the bitch might be growing. So then he gets a text message or an email or something, which is a summons, saying that he has to go before the House of Lords because Georgina and that heifer, they've convinced them that there's enough legitimacy to what's the word, to challenge his title of Duke. And he was like, at this point, I should just give it to him. And she's like, no, you have to protect what was given to you, you know? She's like, I don't necessarily want my kids to be that, but I also don't want the choice taken away from them by Georgina, you know? So he wants to get married ASAP. And he said, honestly, I just don't want my kid to hear the word bastard. I know what it's like to grow up like that, and I just don't want my kid to have to go through it. You know, making the child, you know, legitimate for that's just there, but it's really because of that, because I know how hard it is. So we switch to Xavier's POV. He's got to go back to London in 2 weeks. So they're getting married. It looks like it's gonna be, well, they're at the plaza, and he had a really special moment because he was getting ready, and with Jagger, and Elsie gave him something from his mom, and he kept feeling like something was missing, and that's what it was. So there was this pen that the mom had gave, that she had told him to give it to him one day, and so it felt right. It was like great, And he was shocked because he was like, I never thought my dad gave my mom any type of gifts like this or anything. So what happened? We know they're going to live in New York. They're getting ready for the wedding. We then switch to Francesca. She's getting ready. Leah's doing her makeup. Kate handled her dress. They're having conversation. As soon as they got engaged, he got a wedding planner there. He turned his basement into like this little place of operations to work for, deal with the Parker Group as well as the Kendall estate. So he got it all set up. But he always made time for them. He would make dinner, he would take her on dates. He didn't sacrifice anything. So he clearly learned his lesson. So she has a conversation with her sister Marie. Marie's looking a little different, honey. Maria has gone to Paris. She's cut her hair. She's not wearing glasses. She's wearing contacts. Clothes fit a little bit more, they're still conservative, but they're a little bit more form fitting. She's got a little tiny waist. She's making changes. And she winds up asking her, Francesca, are you sure you're making the right decision? And she says, I'm sure, because Marie was thinking the fact that, Daniel Lyons, she kind of puts him in the same category as Xavier, like, come from money, X, Y, and Z. But she said, I'm happy. And Marie also wanted to know, like, kind of why did he choose you? Like, how did you get him to choose you? And she just kind of let her know, in all honesty, I didn't do anything. I was just myself. If it's going to be, it's going to be. That's how that works. Her story is interesting. I'm going to tell you something. These background siblings, honey, they got some nice stories. So I'm wondering if there are some books about Marie and the different Joni and, Nina. I don't really care about Leah, I'm being honest. But the other ones sound very interesting. So they're getting ready to go to the wedding venue, which she has no idea where it is because it's a surprise. And when she gets to the vehicle and they get her to the destination is the New York Public Library. I said, oh yes, that man knows her. So they have a beautiful wedding. They have, what is it called? The receptions at Shie, S-H-I-E. And there were a few people from his neighborhood, the old neighborhood, that came, and of course Elsie Jagger, but he doesn't have like a lot of important people. And so when they were talking, he said, that's why I told you leaving there is not hard for me. He's like, because you're my family. And he's like, the family you have, I want to be a part of that. And she's like, we ride or die for each other, but you're in it now. So they turn, and Frederick's there. He offered them a congratulations, and then he was talking about his restaurants, and he didn't realize how vast his net worth was, like what he had accomplished on his own. He remembers this old little pub from like so many years ago when he was a jitterbug. And Xavier's like, yeah, this is the 14th and we're still not done. And he's like, wow. He's like, well, that makes me happy. He was like, that way, if anything happens, like, you'll still be okay because of the empire you've built. And she was thinking like, oh, that was nice to him. And he said, yeah, it was nice, but that was also him giving a warning because something is coming. And I'm going to give you all, I think Henry is his dad. And I'm going to tell you why I think that. When Elsie said she had a gift from his father, he made the comment, "Oh, I didn't realize like my dad would give gifts to my mom." And she goes, "Yeah, it's from your father." I say, something's with that. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be so freaking shocked. But I have a feeling that Henry is his dad. I do. Could be wrong. We'll see. They have their honeymoon at the first hotel where they reconnected. After that, they're going to fly to London. They're going to be there a few days before the baby comes. Jagger and Elsie's going to bring her back with her. And she's reading journals. They're back at the estate. They got a really nice welcome because they're the Duke and Duchess. The staff all lined up to greet them. So it was cool. So she's reading the journals, and there's some scandal that's happening apparently. And apparently Rupert had an engagement, but it got called off because he had done something. So it also stated that Miss Sumi was pregnant, but it was like that wasn't the scandal. So she's trying to find out what the hell the scandal was, but Henry's not writing everything in the journal. So he's like, geez, like I was always getting ripped on by my dad saying, don't cause a scandal, don't cause a scandal. And he was causing scandals, you know? So then he winds up having her get on the desk. He eats her pussy, and the door cracks open. Imogene's looking. So she looks back at Imogene, and then she went back to grabbing his hair and moaning, and he ate her till she came. And then when she looked back, Imogene was gone. Come to find out, our boy Xavier knew the bitch was there too. And he was like, you got a little exhibition in you. But he was like, I also like the fact that you get jealous about me too. She goes for a walk afterwards in the gardens because she really hasn't explored the place. She always just kind of went wherever Sophia wanted to go, which was normally to feed the damn sheep. So she's walking and she hears voices. So she hides, and it's Frederick and Imogene. Imogene spazzing out. She's like, they can't be married. It's not possible. And he's let her know, oh no, they're married. It was done legal. And they're expecting, based on what everyone else was saying at the wedding. She was flipping out. So Imogene is telling him that basically, I guess Parliament, or I guess the House of Lords, they are just kind of, they're taking this meeting, but they don't really care because they don't really believe it, but they're just kind of doing it to placate Georgina. Okay? And Frederick was saying they might want to reconsider because mom is a formidable opponent. And so that's when our girl Francesca comes out of hiding. Imogene is like, oh my gosh, you were spying on us? How the fuck she spying? This her shit. Bitch, you ain't even supposed to be here. Because he told you to leave, not to come back. So, bitch, you trespassing, to be honest. But anyway, um, they have their back and forth. She tells her she needs to leave, X, Y, and Z. Basically lets her know she'll get her. Like, she'll beat her ass. She says it, but doesn't say those words. So she leaves, and then she leaving out. She's like, I'll be here tomorrow to talk to you, talking to Frederick. So then Frederick comes, and she's able to pick up based on the conversation that Frederick is in love with Imogene. He's 4 years younger than her, so he feels like she's never going to see him as anything more than just like this little kid. And she's like, just wait a few years. 4 years is nothing. Just give it some time. Um, she was telling him, it sounds like you're riding, kind of like you playing both sides, right? And he's like, that's how you have to be around here. That'll come useful for you in the next few days. So again, something finna pop off. She tells Xavier what happened. He, of course, is like, wow. Like, he just was like, you know, this is wild. She tells him about the suspicions and what Frederick had said. They get mail. She had a letter too. And she's like, oh my gosh, I really feel like Jane, in someone in a Jane Austen novel right now. So his says that it's something about the meeting at the House of the Lords. Hers is a threat, saying that her marriage was a sham and that she needs to leave or they're going to get rid of her. And so now they're starting to think this might be Imogene. And Gibson, the butler, he didn't know. He's like, it was just with the mail, so I don't know who brought it. I have no idea. And he's like, invite the what's them people? What's their names? It'll come to me later. Invite them over for dinner. And the Orthams. And he says, oh, they're on their way to Parkvale. Parkvale is, their other home. Not the Orthams, but the Parkers. And so he knows, okay, she is up to something seriously if she's doing this, you know? And being that Imogene is pissed off, she's going to try and push her father to the other side. So he tells Gibson, tell everyone we're going to Mayfair, but they're going to stop off in Parkvale. So they get to Parkvale. The butler's there. His name's Bledsoe. He a bitch. He doesn't like Francesca, and he shows it. And sure enough, they go in, and it looks like a party's about to develop. So they go in, and he accuses Imogene of writing the letters. And she, of course, is like, I would never do something like that. He holds out the paper, and Lord Ortham was like, that's a Klein's paper. She gets it from India. So come to find out, it's Georgina's sister. I want to say her name's Caroline, so I'm going to call the bitch Caroline. And she was the one that was sending the notes, thinking that they could force Francesca to leave Xavier, and then she would go to Adam. Adam, they say, didn't know anything about it. Our boy Xavier winds up kicking out Georgina, canceling her use of the bank accounts, and she ain't got no damn money, so she's screwed. She, of course, is like, you can't throw me out on the street. I'm a duchess and all this type of stuff. He tells her she is banned from all Parker residences. Oh yeah. He told her, you can't come after my family. That's where you messed up. And so, of course, in her, it's like, this is what she wanted for him to stand up to her. Because these people, they do shisty shit. You know what I'm saying? So, I was glad he said it. Well, they leave, and when they get outside, Georgina comes out with them, and she's going off and all this type of stuff and calling them all type of bastards and scum. And Francesca goes and slaps the shit out of her. And Bledsoe tells her, you can't do that to your grace. And all this type of shit. And it's like, no, bitch, that's your grace. He married her, not this bitch. And so he told old Bledsoe, since your loyalty's with her, you can go with her too. I want you both gone. So they're getting ready to leave, and he gets a phone call. Xavier does. Somebody done fucking kidnapped Sophia. They go back to Mayfair. It's hectic as hell. It's ground zero. They call Derek. They call Matthew. Matthew tried to contact some friends in the CIA, FBI. Everybody's doing everything they can to try and find this damn girl. So basically what happened is, when they came from out of customs, somebody locked Elsie in the bathroom stall and snatched the little girl. So when they're looking at the footage, she can tell by the shape of the person. She's like, it's her fucking mother. So the baby would have went with her, because she would have been like, call me abuelo. She would have went. I'm like, oh my gosh. So an email comes in with the ransom, which is he's got to give up his title, of course, and they also want $50 million, 50 million pounds. She knew that part. The money, that's her mom. So they got in contact. Um, what was it? There was a contact address on when they went through customs. You got to give an address of where you're going, and the address that was put down was his old address in Croton, and the flat, that little apartment above the restaurant. So they think it's just a ploy to fuck with him, but he's like, he's not just gonna sit around and not check it out, right? He's gonna go. And so when it came to the title, she of course was like, "You give them whatever the hell they want to get my baby girl back, you know." But here's the thing: her mom is greedy. This bitch twisted, you know. She really is, and the fact that she's willing to go to these extent, you know, she's not doing it by herself, right? You know, she's not. But it's the idea that she's willing to go to this extent to get some money, and the fact that these people are going to this length to try and get this dupemanship is crazy. It's not just the title. Even if he didn't have the title, he would still have money. You know what I mean? So he's always going to be a target because he's got fucking money. That's just the way of the world. So that's where she wants to put it all in the title, but it's like, nah, it's not all that title. It's also money. That's how they were able to rope your fucking mom into it, because they knew that bitch needed money. She wants money. That's still fucked up. Damn. They get to the apartment, and it's a good thing that Xavier wanted to go because there's a light on that would not have been on. And so, sure enough, the baby's up there. They sneak in. They can hear the baby saying, "I'm tired of watching TV. I want to go home. I want my mama." And she runs out the door and winds up running straight into Francesca's arms. And the mom comes out. She, of course, is like, "You can't take her. You can't take her. You don't know what they'll do to me if I don't have her." And of course, you know, Francesca read her for filth, because it's like, you would do this to her for money. You would kidnap her for money, you know? And she's like, "What was I supposed to do? You wouldn't give me any money." And it's like, bitch, how about you should have saved the money you did when you sold your daughter out before? You were too busy trying to buy high price shit, Chanel and all this different stuff that that you can't sustain. You know, you do that to her, and she's still supposed to give you money? People are wild. Well, as they're going out, who comes up? Bledsoe, and he has a brother named Barnaby. So Bledsoe has been in love with Georgina since forever, so he would do anything for her. And Barnaby, the brother, was pulled out a gun because he was like, "What about the 50 million pounds? You don't get to leave with her unless you've given us the money." Because he was like, "I don't care about the title. I want the money." Well, Xavier was able to break a finger off of break what's his name, Bledsoe's finger, and knock the gun out of Barnaby's hands. And Francesca grabbed it real quick and checked it because she knows how to do that since her brother's in the military and taught her shit. And there were no guns in it. I'm sorry, there were no guns. There were no bullets in it. And she just goes, "You two really are stupid." So the police come, of course, they get arrested. Guadalupe, of course, is trying to beg and plead for them not to take her, but she was done. She's like, "Nah, you go." At this point, there's nothing to be done with somebody like that. Take her back to jail. That's where she seems to thrive. I don't know. Of course, it was blasted all across the media, the kidnapping. Georgina was a part of it, so they've got her picture. She's getting arrested. The Klein lady, she's getting arrested because not only was she harassing, her ass was a part of that scheme too. So later that week, Lord Ortham comes by and, you know, check on them and stuff and make sure they're okay. And they're just kind of talking about the family and everything. And he brought two more journals from Henry that Gibson had found. And Gibson actually kind of likes Francesca now because he sees the love she has for the history of the place and stuff like that. So he likes her now. They're cool. Um Xavier asks Lord Ortham if he would be the steward of Kendall. And he was like, of course. He's like, I would be honored. So after Lord Ortham left, they have a discussion, and um, he tells her, here's the problem. At some point, I'm going to get called back, and I'm going to have to serve in Parliament. And she tells him, if that's the case, then we're going to be here with you. Because he was like, we can annul the marriage. I know you don't want this, and I won't hold it against you. She said, no, there's no annul. No, 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 no. We done did it too much to be annulled. She said, no, we are a family. We are going to do this together. And if you have to be here, then we're going to be here. That's just what it is. Would I prefer New York? Yeah. But we are a family. That's it. And I was proud of her because she understood this shit's bigger than us, right? It's bigger than that. These are 1,000 years of tradition. It's a lot of shit. So she understood it, and she didn't fight it. She really did realize he is your family now. You done brought him into this y'all family, so he shouldn't have to get left out there alone because this was something he was born into. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not talking about bad stuff you get born into, but in this case. So they have their fun, and then he goes to sleep, and she can't sleep, so she winds up reading some of the journals. So the new ones reveal that Henry is his father. The mama she was fucking with Rupert, okay? That's who she was in love with. But Rupert was the arrogant piece of shit, treated like trash. So she fucked around with Henry to get back at Rupert, and it did work. But Henry was in love with her, like genuinely in love with her. So he was like, I'll marry you, you know what I'm saying, to make everything okay. And at first she didn't want to do it, but she winds up reading that, and she jumps up, and she's like waking him up like, you gotta get up, you gotta get up. So here's the whole story. It's pretty juicy. So Misumi, when they got back to Kendall, she wanted to divorce Henry because she didn't want to be with him. She didn't want to be tied to this place, right? Henry didn't want to give her a divorce, and so she left without getting it. Rupert was actually the lover of Lord Ortham. So he messed with women too, but I think he wanted to be with Lord Ortham. So they used to go on these hunting trips, and Imogene used to tell what's his face, Xavier, about. They would go on these hunting trips, and nobody could come along. And when they came back, they had no spoils. Because when you go on a hunting trip, come back with some shit. They didn't come back with nothing. That was their way of being together. So it wasn't that there was an accident, he couldn't have kids. He didn't want kids because he liked dudes. And so this whole arrangement came because Henry felt like this was his way of giving his son something, right? So technically, it's kind of like he still would be this, because even if, well, maybe it would have went to, no, I still don't think it would have went through to Frederick, because if Rupert didn't have any kids, then it should have went to Henry, and then Henry should have been the one. But apparently Henry used to try and see the child more. He used to try and see Xavier, but Masumi wouldn't let him, which I think is fucked up, you know? Because it's like, bitch, you caused this shit too. You laid with him. He didn't take them from you. But yeah. So it's a whole thing. So he, of course, is flabbergasted Xavier because he had no clue. But he just thought, wow, my mom really was involved in some shit. And instead of her dealing with it, she just ran away. God dang. But he's the rightful heir. So no matter what, he was gonna be he is a Parker by blood. That's for sure. So that's good to know, right? He's not a bastard. We fast forward a few months. They're at their the grandma's house having a party. I think Nina and Matthew are gonna have a little girl. Everyone thinks they're gonna have a little boy, but they actually found out that it it was inconclusive what the child was. So they're not gonna find out till the child's born. But they're not gonna tell anybody. He gave up his seat at the House of Lords. Lord Ortham is going to make sure he doesn't have to basically come back. In the event that he does or anyone wants to challenge, you know, if he's a rightful heir, they have the documents that they put into this place that all the lords put their like most prized possessions, and it proves that he is, you know, the actual one. So they put it in there and they left it at that. Um, Xavier knows the truth. That's what matters. He's cool. And they're going to live in New York. They are redoing a home because he wanted a chef's kitchen and he wanted their floor to be beneath the kid so that way he could make her scream loud with orgasms. Okay, I'm like, okay. Joni, the baby sister's pissed off because Nona is selling the house and she's taking her ass to Europe, honey. Joni's pissed off because she's getting put out in 2 weeks, but Nona feels like it's time. She wants to live her life. And Francesca kind of says to Joni, like, listen, our grandmother has made sacrifices for us for way too long. She needs to enjoy her life. Joni, of course, didn't want to hear shit because she was like, unless you're going to help me, I don't want to hear it. So she apparently is back go-go dancing, but she's not a bartender, and she says she barely makes enough to pay her phone bill. Then, bitch, if that's what you're doing, you need to go get a regular job. Our boy Xavier is like, maybe she can stay at the Red Hook house because the Red Hook is still in, you know, Matthew and Francesca's name. And she's like, I'm not gonna let her be homeless, but she does need to try and figure it out. She's like, she doesn't have a kid to worry about. She just has herself. And she doesn't try and do anything, you know? Hell, she didn't learn how to tie her shoes until she was 12 because we always did it for her. So if my grandmother feels like she needs to put her out to make her grow up, then we're going to trust that. You know, if she needs us, we're here. We're here. But we're not just going to give everything to her. So then he gives her an envelope. It is from Columbia. She has been accepted into the PhD program for English literature. We don't find out what the kid is, just but when they do have the child, it's gonna be either Lucian, or like Luciana or something, like an abbreviation of like Lucy's name, because she thought he would want to maybe give it um like one of the parents' name. She said, I think they caused he said, I think they caused enough trouble. We need to let them rest. Which I thought was hilarious. And he's not wrong. They did some foolishness that was, I feel, unnecessary. So yeah. That's how it ends. There is a book that's gonna go into Joni's um life. There is also one, I think, that it showed she was gonna write about the prequel to what happened with Nina and Matthew. So that's probably gonna be interesting. So if those are ones you guys would like to check out, that'll be cool. But what did you all think? I really liked it. Even though the main character, pissed me the fuck off a lot. Um, she did redeem herself in the end. She did. I didn't think it was going to happen, but she did redeem herself. So I am happy about that. I did not see that kidnapping coming. That was a shock to me. Um, I didn't know what they were going to do. I thought there was going to be a possible smoking gun or something else, but I didn't expect them to go to the lengths of not that they weren't capable of it. I just didn't think it was going to come to them kidnapping to try and force his hand. I thought they had found something, but they never did. It genuinely was, we're just going to try and force it to give it to him. So again, I don't know if Frederick is really, I guess he's what he said. He kind of rides the fence. Whatever benefits him, that's the way he goes. So I feel like he probably knew about the kidnapping, which means he ain't shit either. You know? So it worked out how it was supposed to. Again, I think the siblings have some really great stories. They seem like to have some really great stories that would be nice to dive into. But what did you all think? Let me know. Drop down in the comment section below. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available. The link is going to be available down in the description section. Make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support. And thank you for tuning into the Always Reading Book Club.